Dr. Jazz.
Taking the time, Robin.
Jazz.
Sure.
Appreciate it. You know, listen to your music for such a long time, and your compositions and everything, and so thank you. Appreciate it. And I just want to start with asking you something about More Than Meets the Ear, your big band project. I listened to it yesterday, and I listened to some tunes, and you know, Seeking Spirit and Full Circle. You played Seeking Spirit with Dave Holland, and just a question popped to my mind. What's usually like the writing creative process for you when you write the tune? Just like, I mean, I'm a composer as well and a player and a musician, but like, how do you start? What's the starting point? Let's take Seeking Spirit. How did that happen?
I have to remember how it sounds.
It's like the 5/4 song.
Yeah. I'm not sure. A lot of stuff I just hear, and I think that one I was trying to do something that sounded kind of positive and light, because most of my stuff sounds a little kind of heavy, I think, and maybe minor key kind of vibe or something. But I wanted to do something that had a kind of upward feeling about it, and kind of a happy vibe about it at first. And so I think I was just hearing the rhythm, and then I heard the melody, a melody that sounded kind of happy. Then I heard this counter rhythm.
Yeah.
That went against this other thing. I'm always hearing lots of different rhythms and things, and trying to remember how that goes. Okay. And then, you know, a lot of the stuff I recorded, and I listened to it, put it on, you know, have it looping around, and then that's kind of sing things against it to see what sounds. Most of the stuff, you know, is done through just humming and singing, and hum a lot of stuff onto my phone, and you know, while I'm out, or maybe I'm in the car, or I could be anywhere, and I just hear something, and then I could just record it. I just sing it in there, and then I have it, and I listen to it later, and then I may transcribe it and put it into whichever DAW I'm using, and just to try to hear lines against lines, and and then later on I think I heard this other part, the part where it goes minor, and then I, you know, there was, you know, it's just kind of listen to stuff, and then hear where it is, and then think about what might happen next, kind of thing.
Yeah. And how do you do that? Like, you know, so are you stuck sometimes, or what do you do when you're stuck?
Oh, yeah.
Let's say, you know,
I get stuck a lot of times, but I just listen to it until I just sing along with it. I let it play and sing along with it, and then sometimes I hear a different rhythm or a different melody But part of it could be different parts. Like on my phone, I have, I can show you some of it. I just did some stuff yesterday.
Oh,
I don't know if you can see. Well,
yeah.
it's just all of these are just little recordings that
Oh man, that's so cool.
of little fragments of stuff. Like this one. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
So that's like 7 against 6 or something.
Yeah,
I just
like,
heard. And let me see what this is. I mean, I don't even know. I don't even remember. I'm a Buddhist. I was chanting. Oh, that might have just been me listening to the bell. There's another one.
yeah.
Just hear grooves and feels, and then I hear stuff, and I listen to that and just sing stuff against it, and it just kind of builds organically. And then I have like a section. I may develop a little, I get a little fragment, then I add another piece to it, and I get a bigger chunk.
Yep.
And then I may connect that chunk to, I have stuff going on this thing going back. I don't know if you can see some of the dates on there. Let's go back to 2000.
January, man, 20. Wow.
2020.
Wow. Man.
And it just goes all the way back. And this one is
214. Oh man. Wow.
2014. I've got stuff on here from 7 years.
Wow.
So then maybe at the one point I may go through each one and listen to it and see what I'm thinking about it then, and see how it feels, and maybe something I wrote or came up with 5 years ago may connect with something I'll write tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then you just got to hear how they work together, and then maybe a way that you can combine them, or rhythmically or melodically, or whatever, musically.
Musically, yeah. Well, you mentioned before, like 6/7. I think you said, like, with midtown from different perspectives. I listened to that yesterday. It's in 7, right? Like, I think it's a 7. The first song on the.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, where does, and you mentioned rhythm. Where does this incredible magicianship of odd meters come from with you, and the rhythms especially? Like, you seem to be also, when I listen to you with whoever, or your own project, or as as a side person, you seem so comfortable whether playing over 7 or 5 or 11 or whatever, like, even, or as a composer. How did you develop that?
Well, I guess it started back when I was really young, and in high school. Even I was like 15. That's when the Mahavishnu Orchestra and John McLaughlin and stuff started, and that was the first time I ever heard stuff in different meters. I couldn't count it. I didn't know what was going on, but as a musician, it was really a challenge for me to really try to be able to count it and feel the time in these different time signatures. And then when I started feeling it, it was really nice. And then I started to hear how I could hear 7s on top of 4/4.
Mm-hmm.
And you just started hearing all these polyrhythms, and listening to African music and Brazilian music and Indian music a lot, and all these different music that has lots of rhythms from around the planet. And just really internalizing them and taking little things from each culture and each style of music and adding it to my own formula.
Yeah.
And to create something that's kind of sounds like me. I mean, lots of people do odd meters and
sure.
But I've tried to come up with a way that represents my perspective and my approach to it. And you know, sometimes I get tired of hearing my stuff because to me a lot of it sounds the same or similar, you know, or so I like listening to other people's music to try to get some other kinds of inspiration but you know, and part of it, you know, just trying to learn how to play over it. And then a lot of times when I'm composing and when I'm doing things like when I'm singing fragments into my phone, I just hear stuff. I don't even know what time signature it is when I'm singing it.
Sure.
And I don't figure out a time signature until I have to write it down. I mean, I've actually asked people, I said, you know, friends of mine, I said, what time signature would you put this in if you were, you know, and they listen to it and then and sometimes they hear it completely different than I do.
Yeah, where the one is or whatever. Yeah.
So it's and lots of times, you know, working with sequencers, you put things on loop. Sometimes I would just put it on loop and leave it on for half an hour, walk around my home and then come back in and listen to it. And sometimes you come in and you hear, like what you just said, you hear one in a whole completely different place. And then I said, well, that means I can write something where one is accented here, and then I can write another part where one is accented the original way I heard it. And then you find out a way to make these things work together musically. And for me, you know, it's like problem solving and putting a puzzle together, and it's really fun to me.
Yeah. It's I mean, it looks like it and it sounds like it when I listen to you. I mean, whoever, one of the first records I bought, I was a teenager, was Spirit Talk by your brother. And, you know, talking about odd meters, I didn't know what was happening. I just knew I really loved it. You know, then I figured out when I was like 17 or 11 or whatever. But it's just,
right.
Did you guys, like when you grew up, let's say in the 70s, you mentioned Mahavishnu, did you guys talk together about odd meters also and started discovering that, or like play together?
Yeah, we started, Kevin and I probably started getting into the odd meter stuff around the same time. I guess since I was a little bit older, I brought it home first, like the Mahavishnu stuff, and you know, because we were playing in bands together at that time. And you know, he really got into it because, you know, with all the guitar, you know, from guitar to guitar. So he started working a lot of arpeggiated odd time signature things. And you know, and he writes in that style now still to some degree. And so it was definitely a big influence on us. But you know, you didn't have other people to play that stuff with because nobody else was really doing that. And you know, because we were playing in funk bands and stuff was in 4/4, but you just slip something in every now and then. You know, you can have something in 4/4 beat and play and put an odd meter against it, and you know, have it loop around and come together on a downbeat whenever that is.
Yeah. Even on your record, one of your records, you did The Ocean, you know, the Zeppelin, that they did this like.
Yeah. I think I heard put the odd meter in there too. I think.
I think it's 5. Yeah, originally.
I added a 5/4 beat measure in there.
Yeah, but it's, you know, like even those guys, of course, did it also. So
true. I think that's what I love Led Zeppelin.
Yeah,
I listen to their stuff all the time. So it's really I really love all that stuff. It still inspires me very much.
Yeah, it's incredible. You know, I teach as well, and it's so funny. I teach this song, "The Ocean," so much, and there's like, if you listen to it, it's like John Bonham's bass pedal. Once he counts it, it's like it has this sound. I always loved it, and he just starts playing, and such a cool band. Yeah, but it's still always that. It's a beautiful track. This "The Ocean." But growing up in Philadelphia in the 70s, you know, you played funk, and what was the trigger? You mentioned Mahavishnu, like when we were talking about the odd meters, but like regarding jazz trombone, what was for you, if you remember which record, the trigger to say that you want to really improvise in the style of jazz? Like you're.
Well, I didn't start playing jazz till I was like 20.
Oh, really? Oh, so like mid 70s. Okay.
I was playing funk and rock all the way up until I was 20. And I only started playing jazz, listening to jazz, because it had a lot of trombones in it. So I could learn to play solos in the funk band. Because in our funk band, we gave the horn players a lot of solos. People were dancing.
Yeah.
And I sounded awful. So just to learn how to play better solos, I went to a record store and just looked for anything that had the trombone on it. And I found a J.J. Johnson album, because I had heard of him before.
Yeah.
And then I found Curtis Fuller was on an Art Blakey record called Thermo, I think it was. It was a double record. So, and then I found a Wayne Henderson, who was a trombone player in the Jazz Crusaders. And I just bought those and studied those just so I could hear what trombone solos sounded like. The first trombone solo I ever learned, though, was Fred Wesley on James Brown record called Let a Man Come In and Do the Popcorn. And I learned that one by ear, but some of the some of those jazz stuff was way harder for me to learn. So, but and then there was a trombone player in Chicago, which is a group that I used to listen to a lot, James Pankow. I used to love that. I still listen to Chicago a lot too.
Great band, yeah.
And so I could learn his solos by ear. They weren't as complicated, but it was. But I just tried to learn from. That's why I started listening to jazz, and it wasn't until I started really studying jazz that I started to really appreciate it and understand more and more about it, and how it related to my life as a African American, and how jazz chronicled a lot of the African American experience in this country.
Yeah.
And so it was. So I really became a real jazz devotee, really getting into jazz. But then I wanted to combine that with the rock music and the funk music that I grew up with. So I just tried to combine all that stuff together, and then the Mahavishnu stuff that introduced odd time signatures to me. So it was a big mixture of a whole bunch of things, of funk and jazz and rock and time signatures and whatever else I could do.
That explains a lot. Yeah, if I listen now to if I think about your music and your albums, yeah, it makes sense, because you have all this. You made your own dough, kind of from all these different ingredients. Makes sense.
Yeah, I was basically trying to create a musical environment that I could express myself in, that I could solo in and feel comfortable. And that wasn't always playing jazz standards, all the things you are, and Stella and all that kind of stuff, which is fine, but that, it wasn't me. It was just something that that I learned and developed to help me express myself better in my own kind of music that I wanted to create. And I'm still working on the music that I'm creating. So,
yeah, definitely. But you mentioned Art Blakey. I have to ask you this. You know, I watched a lot of footage of you playing with Art, and you mentioned, you know, Curtis Fuller, and was Art Blakey the trigger why you moved into New York, or did you move already before to New York, before the Art Blakey?
I moved to Art Blakey. I moved to New York because I met, because it was New York, first of all, and it was.
What was the trigger you moved to New York? I mean, like how
a lot of people, well, a couple of things. A lot of people, I asked musicians that came through Philadelphia, you know, I said, I just graduated from college. I'm about to graduate. Would you recommend? And like I met Julian Priester, trombone.
Oh, really? Oh, well, sure.
And he told me you should consider moving to New York. And then I asked other musicians. Everybody said, and you know, New York is only 2 hours away from Philadelphia, so it's very close. It's probably just the biggest. Philadelphia is the biggest, you know, the closest big city next to New York, geographically. So, and I can get there on the train, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then I met Slide Hampton in Philadelphia. I got to sit in with him. He asked me to play. Because Al Gray, who was a trombone player with Count Basie's band, was a good friend of ours and a kind of a mentor also in Philadelphia. Oh. And he got a lot of us into getting really serious about playing music, and he liked my playing. And I went to go see Slide Hampton. He had just come to Philadelphia. He had just come back from Europe, and there's a Dexter Gordon album called Sophisticated Giants came out, and Slide did all the arrangements for it. And he was playing at a club in Philadelphia, so I went to the club to see him play, and Al Gray was there. And I assume Al told Slide something about me. And when Al introduced me to Slide, Slide asked me if I had my horn, which shocked me. I was, you don't even know me. So I said, yeah. So he asked me to sit in, and I sat in on a couple of songs, and that night he asked me to join his band in New York called the World of Trombones. Wow. And that was my impetus for moving to New York.
Wow.
I had a gig.
Yeah.
Or was developing some relationships with other musicians, so it was a good thing to do.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Consider. Yeah. Definitely. When there's like a footage of you with Blakey from Antibes in France, 1980. Was that like the first time you went to Europe, like touring wise, also with him? And
first time I went to Europe was with Sam Rivers.
Really? Oh man, how was that? When?
It was great. It was he had a Riv B orchestra, and it was crazy. But Sam was kind of crazy. Situation was crazy, but it was my first time in Europe, and a lot of my friends had been to Europe many times, so I was hearing all these stories, so I was very, very excited to go, and it was it was cool, and then I guess the next time I went was probably with Art.
Yeah, and how did this gig with Art happen then? I mean, because you played with him a couple of years, right? In the beginning of the 80s.
He was putting a big band together. Oh. And my brother Kevin was going to Berkeley then with Branford Marsalis. Wow. And Kevin called me and told me that Art was looking for a trombone player for the band, and he told me to go to this club, McKell's, which was at 97th and Columbus in Manhattan, and audition. So I went there and played. It was like 10, 15 horn players lined up against the wall. Everybody played like 2 choruses, and next person came is like a assembly line of people playing. And then I played, and ultimately I got the gig.
Oh, incredible. How was that like for you? I mean, being like 24, 25, basically playing then with the guy, you listened on your records.
Yeah, that was actually, it was amazing. That was the first time I ever saw Art live, was when I went to audition for the band.
Oh man. Well.
And so it was scary and nervous. I'm pretty sure. I don't remember exactly, but I mean, I had to be. but it was a great opportunity. So and it was fun. It was New York. At least I'd been used to coming to New York, because I would come up to New York to rehearse with the Slides trombone group.
Yeah.
Or then I would take the train back home. So I was comfortable coming up to New York and doing whatever I had to do. So it was great.
Amazing.
And playing with Art was amazing. And in that band, he had a sextet already, and he added my brother Kevin and me and Winton and Branford Marsalis to the band, to make the big band. So it was a great experience, and that's when obviously when I met Winton and Branford, and we did a tour and a recording in Europe, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, incredible. It's like when I look at your discography, like in this beginning and up to mid 80s, it's incredible who you played with, and so diverse stuff you've done. And
but it's a wide range of people, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to ask you about one record. I mean, I did a record years ago with Mark Ellis, and he gave me a CD, the current set. And you play some of the most incredible solos on there, like Rebound and Nuclear One, those tunes of Mark. And just like, how did your story with Mark begin with Elias, that record, or I mean, your collaboration?
I'm not even sure. We were all hanging out in New York around the same. We were all in New York on the scene at the same time. I used to play basketball with Mark.
Oh, really? Oh man.
He used to elbow me. He's foul a lot when he played, but he was, it was good. It was good exercise. It was always fun, and we were friends. We were all friends, and we just seeing him on the scene, I think. And then I did some stuff with Bobby Previtt's band.
Oh yeah.
And we were, I think, we were all, I think, we used to see each other on festivals and stuff like that, and we were. I think he did some stuff for Stefan Winter.
Oh yeah.
Which was, and that was the same label that my first records were on, and stuff. I did some Steve Coleman and all of us, Greg Osby, Cassandra Wilson, Jerry. We were all recording for that label.
Yeah.
when we formed the M-Bass band and all that stuff. So we met Mark a lot through and just in common circles, and he just asked me to play, and I mean I haven't heard that record in probably 30 years.
Oh man, yeah, it's such a
listen to it. I don't even remember it at all.
No, wow. It's like you play amazing. Like it's I love that stuff. What you play in there, it's because it's more open.
I definitely like to hear it, because it was definitely different. I like playing. It wasn't like the real straight ahead stand kind of thing. I don't even remember the music. I don't remember anything about it really, other than I remember the name of the recording.
Yeah.
I don't even remember who else was on it.
Osby's on a couple of tunes, and
Oh, Greg on some of it.
yeah, and Tim Byrne also, and Nana. Then I think none of us can kill us overdub. Victor Lewis is on drums.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
I really. Oh wow, man. Okay. But you mentioned the M bass, and I wanted to ask you also about your connection with Steve, and Jerry Allen and all you guys. I remember when I first heard World Expansion, you guys did with Steve, and talking about odd meters. How did that thing started to evolve in the mid-'80s?
We just knew each other from New York scene also. I knew because I used to sub on the Mel Lewis big band. They used to play every Monday night down at the Vanguard. It used to be Thad and Mel before Thad Jones and Mel Lewis before Thad moved to I think he moved to Copenhagen. And so I used to sub on that band, and Steve used to sub and play on that band also. Oh. So that's how I met Steve, was in that band, and we were like the new guys in town, and then we just started. Smitty Smith was like my roommate for a while.
Oh, really? Oh man.
Yeah, and then Steve and Smitty recommended me to Dave Holland when Julian Priester left his band. So then when I played with Dave's band, and at the same time, I think Greg Osby and maybe Gary Thomas and some other was playing with Lonnie might have been playing in that band too. I forget, with Jack DeJohnette's band, and we did a gig together, a double bill, and then we flew back on the same plane, and we were talking about trying to get some music together and playing, hanging out, and that's basically when we came up with the whole M bass thing. We were saying we should come up with some music that we can play that represents our generation, so we didn't have to play standards all the time, and we all liked funk music, and people seemed to be interested in meters and combining jazz and everything, and I think I was the one who said we should. Everybody had their own personal concepts, so I said we should write your concept stuff down, and we should give it a name, because if we don't name it, then the press will name it. They'll call it some Brooklyn, whatever they want to call it. Sure. I said if we don't name it, they'll name it. So then Steve got a thesaurus, and he came up with M bass, and the macro was a basic array of structured stepulations or whatever.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So he told us that. We always said, sounds okay. So we went with that, and more importantly, it was just about us trying to come up with music to play together. And so everybody composed and wrote stuff and brought stuff in, and we would get together and play in each other's apartments and stuff like that. And we got some gigs, and that's basically how it happened. Terri Lynn Carrington was in there. Smitty did some stuff with us also, and Jerry Allen, of course, and Cassandra. So, and so it was great. It was a really great time period. It's like mid-'80s, I think.
Yeah.
It was right before I joined. I forget, something I did right at the end of that. I think I joined Art again.
Oh, really?
Again, after, yeah, I remember that.
Oh.
I think I joined Art around 87, 88, around 88, and that was during right around the same time we were doing the M-bass stuff.
Well, yeah, I don't know, it's such an important musically for me. I think for so many people of my generation or older, like what you guys started doing, also you with Dave, you know, like that's incredible. You know, for me, compositionally, that record, The Razor's Edge, when I first heard Vedana and that 5-4-6, I think it's Kenny's tune, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, it's incredible.
Kenny was a great writer and trumpet player. I really
How was it like playing with Kenny for you? I mean, like this front section, this is incredible. One of the best ever for me.
It was great. You know, he was very, very reserved personally, but a lot of this stuff came out when he played. And then his writing was amazing. Some of his, he did a recording called Music for
Small and Large. I love that. Yeah, that's incredible.
One of my favorite things ever. I remember we used to all teach at Banff in Canada in a summer program. And I remember one time I went there and or maybe I went there the second week or something, and the first night I got there, the ensemble was playing this music of Kenny's. And I said, what the hell is that? It was amazing. And they said it was one of Kenny's music. And I immediately went and got the recording and the music and everything. It was some of the best stuff I've ever heard. And Kenny he was an amazing guy.
Yeah, it's like, I ask everyone, you know, I talk to just during this series that I'm doing, like, I really want to, Kenny's one of my favorite musicians ever and composers. And I ask everyone who had the chance to play with him, you know, about their thoughts on him, because he's one of the most underrated, probably, trumpet players ever. I mean, musicians, we know him, but, you know, the wider audience should more, I guess.
No, I agree. I usually like to play some of his music when I do my gigs, for sure.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
A couple of songs that I love playing.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I wanted to ask you also, this you already mentioned Winter and Winter, and I mentioned before different perspectives. When was the point that you kind of realized or decided, okay, I want to become a band leader? How did different perspectives, like in that Art Blakey, Dave Holland, M-Bass, full schedule you probably had, where did you fit that in, becoming a band leader? How did that decision come?
Well, I wanted to do it for a long time before I actually had the chance to do it. And it just kind of popped up, and it was, I was doing like some of the recordings with some of the other people who recorded with them, you know, all of our friend group. It's like everybody was recording for the same company. So it's like basically my turn came around, and I said, sure. So it was, Stefan was recording all of us at that time.
Yeah.
So it seemed like the thing to do.
Did you feel comfortable immediately in the role of a band leader? Like how was, because you changed roles?
No, I felt pretty comfortable in it, because, you know, I mean, I don't remember. I had music, and I used to write music. You know, I wrote some arrangements for Slide's World of Trombones, and I used to do a lot of writing and a lot of arranging. So I've had music, and it felt fine.
Yeah. It's a really nice record also. I mean,
thanks.
I like that one. So, but I wanted to ask you then, you know, we mentioned Dave Holland, and how did then the return to Dave Holland's band happen? Like, you know, points of view, that period, when did that call of Dave again happen, and how was it like for you in that band? I mean, that's for me one of the best sounding groups ever. You and with Chris Potter and Steve Nelson and Billy Kilson on drums and Dave, that's like,
yeah, he just I'm trying to remember. what was happening. I think he just called and said he was trying to put, basically, I just, I think that was the same time when I took Julian's place when he left the band, and Steve and Smitty recommended me, and then there was a break, a time where that band broke up, and then Dave called and wanted to put another band together, and he told me this drummer Billy Kilson. I had never heard of Billy before, and I said, who's that? And then I think he had a band before that with Gene Jackson and Eric,
yeah.
And then he just switched up bands. Dave changes his mind and decides he wants to do something else. He just goes and does it.
Yeah.
Which is cool, you know.
Yes.
His band, he do whatever he wants. But and so he just put this band together, and Steve Wilson was the sax player.
Oh yeah, exactly. He was the first, yeah.
And then Steve Wilson left the band to join Chick Corea's band, and Chris came in. So it was great.
Yeah, it's like I did this talk the other day with Billy Kilson, and you know, Billy is one of my favorite drummers, and also asking him about that band. And I wanted to ask you, how was it like to play with those incredible players for you, and how you know, I listened, I don't know, to many recordings that are video recordings of that quintet, and you know, Potter takes a solo, Chris takes a solo, it's incredible, and everyone was playing at such a high level. How did you push each other to do that actually? I mean, how did you approach a concert, like, and to play at such a high level? Like, how did this develop with that band?
I'm not sure. We just well, I think it developed a lot because we played a lot. We worked a lot. We had lots of gigs. We were always touring. We were going to Europe a lot and playing in the States. And so the band was always working. And it even got to the point later on where we didn't even really rehearse. People would bring music in, and we would try it at the sound checks for the next gig, where we tried to sound check for a couple of times, and then we tried on the gig, and we make mistakes and mess it up the first couple of times, and then we get it better. By the third time, we get a little better and better. And Dave would call the sets, and Dave actually handed out the solos to each person for each.
Okay.
So he would, you know, you play on this and you play on that and blah, blah, blah. So, and the solos were long. So you got a lot of, if I didn't play on a song, I knew I had a nice little break. I could rest up a little bit. But we were definitely stretching, and and I had a really good rhythmic connection with Billy.
Really, yeah. You can hear that.
And I always like connecting with the drummers, because I like to play very rhythmic, and I try to approach trombone almost like a percussion instrument in a way sometimes.
But you also started writing. You wrote, I know, Global Citizens for the quintet and Metamorphosis you wrote. So did Dave there at a certain point started to encourage you to, because you each brought tunes,
well,
right?
every record he asked people to bring stuff if they had anything. I started writing on the first record, Points of View. When I wrote Metamorphosis for that. Yeah. So I wrote something for every record. Yeah. And he asked people if anybody wanted to bring, which was one of the great things about Dave, is he's very open and really encouraged people to bring music, and like I was saying about my writing, sometimes I get tired of hearing it, because I know it's for me, it sounds very much like me. and because my writing really, I think I have a strong imprint of my personality and my style of writing, and the whole album of that just sounds like a lot of me to me. And but when you have other people contributing to the record,
it's a nice
music, it adds a more diverse vibe and personality to the music. It doesn't all sound like one person wrote it. Yeah. Which is, it's nothing wrong with that either, but just for me personally, sometimes I get tired of hearing my stuff, even though I like it all, but just over and over again, it's like.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know for kind of what you mean, because sometimes when I write and I'm like, oh shit, I'm here again. It's again like, or like,
Yeah, you get your style and then
and then I'm like, shit, I don't want to play again this riff in 7, like, or whatever. Like,
yeah,
start to listen to something else just to.
Yeah, then you just start. I mean, obviously, it's a good problem to have, I guess, and that it forces you to open up your own writing and your own styles. Yeah. I mean, everything doesn't have to sound like you. I mean,
definitely, yeah, definitely.
It's up to you. I mean,
definitely, yeah. Robin, I just wanted to ask you also one more thing, like about your connection with Andrew Hill. That there's this record, But Not Farewell, and which is such a, in a way, at least I would say, underrated record, because it's such beautiful writing also by Andrew. And like, how was it for you playing also with him? For me, one of the.
It was nice. It was very different because I had never played with Andrew before. I think Greg and Gary Thomas were playing with him, and then he started adding the trombone and some more, and it was just different because just the time feel was a little different because he was a little left of center. And then things would be a little ahead or a little behind. It wasn't like right on top of the time and everything. So it felt really loose for me. And we did some gigs. I remember we did some stuff at Sweet Basil's, and we did some other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
The live stuff helped a lot.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah, he's such a composer for me. Like all those 60s records and 70s. That's so underrated also as a composer. But just one more last thing, not to take too much of your time, talking about time feel. How was it then, like, for you playing with Elvin and, also Michael Brecker on that Life of the Blue Note? And I know you did with White Angles then with Michael as well. So basically 2 questions in one, like, playing with Elvin, how was that like for you rhythmically, since you said you're so important rhythm is for you? And
playing with Elvin was like a dream come true. He's my favorite all-time drummer by far.
Wow.
I love Elvin, and I used to go hear him play at the Vanguard all the time when he had some of his earlier bands, and he had Andrew White playing with him, and Ari Brown on sax, and I think Marvin Horn was playing. And Andy McLeod on bass. Marvin Horn played guitar. But I would go see him at the Vanguard all the time. I used to go in the Vanguard every week. And I used to sit in front of one of the speakers, and I would have my cassette player recorded everything. I got lots of bootleg stuff from there.
Wow.
But I just, and of course all the stuff he did with Train. So I just loved Elvin's playing, and I was good friends with Sonny Fortune also.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I did some recording, some of his recordings, and we did a lot of gigs together. And I guess it was 1998. Sonny called me and said Eddie Henderson was playing with Elvin, and Eddie couldn't make a gig, so Sonny recommended me to sub for Eddie Henderson on one of Elvin's gigs in Boston at the Regatta Bar. And of course I said yes. And me and Elvin was like this from the first time we played, because I heard him play so much. And like I told you before, I try to approach the trombone like a drum, so like a percussion instrument. And I told Elvin that when we were playing, he said, I said, I'd like to. I mean, I said, I love playing with you. Obviously, and it's like my favorite drummer. And I was trying to approach a trombone like the drums, and he said, I hear it. And we had a really nice connection. And he hired me in the band that night.
Wow.
And and just playing with Elvin was just unbelievable, man. It's hard to describe, but he just the feeling that he had. And I would watch him. I stood right next to his hi-hat most of the time when we played, and I watched him like a hawk, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing, but it was just incredible. And and I heard, and then when I heard this album that he did with Jan Hammer, who was the keyboard player with
Mahavishnu.
And well, I'm blanking on the bass player. It'll come to me, but it's an album called On the Mountain.
Oh yeah, it's Jim Perla on bass. No, is it? No, it's not Jim Perla.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Gene Perla, and Elvin just plays like Elvin, but he's playing all this Jan Hammer kind of music, and it really showed me how his playing just transcended all these boundaries. And I mean, there's one song. He's swinging like he's playing with Tain, and Jan's playing a synthesizer solo, and there's another song with some odd meters in it, and Elvin's killing it. And that's when I said, man, because it's one of for me, it's my favorite Elvin Jones record.
Really?
Next to some of the Tain records, but it's next to the stuff with Tain, it's my favorite Elvin playing for sure. And because it just covers so much ground, and it just shows how he can just play like himself. He didn't have to change his style to blend with the other musicians. So and I got a chance to play with him a lot. So it was. Did
you guys also tour together, like or?
Yeah. I played with him for like about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Wow. Incredible.
But it was a shame that we only did that one recording.
Yeah.
But we played a lot of gigs, and I was, and even after I left the band, he used to call me up when they were playing at the Blue Note in New York, and he'd tell me to come on. He said, "Come down and sit in. Let's have some fun." He used to invite me to come down and play because we had a really strong connection playing. So it was and Elvin loved the trombone. That's the other thing. He used to tell me how he used to like this trombone player. I think he played a bass seeker named Terri Glenn. He just loved the trombone. The first time he ever went to Europe was with J.J. Johnson.
Oh wow, man. I didn't know that.
So he loved the trombone. So he liked the sound of it, and he liked playing with trombone. So me and him got along very, very well.
Connected. Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. Thank you so much, Robin, for sharing some of these stories. So
sure.
Really appreciate it. So much history and so much you've done. So thank you for hope to catch you on the road somewhere in Europe one day soon.
Where are you located? I'm
in Slovenia.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, I think you probably played Ljubljana a couple of times, and
yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Maribor. It's just like the second largest town. So
I think I played there when it was Yugoslavia.
Yeah.
Way back.
That's like, yeah, we got independent in 1991. So yeah, I guess you played with Dave or with Art Blakey probably also, yeah.
Yeah. And played, obviously after that.
The so-called Eastern Bloc still. Everyone keeps telling me stories like, people who played still here as part of Yugoslavia, how it was when crossing borders and all that. It's just...
it was nuts. No, I'm looking forward to coming back to Europe. This is the longest I haven't been in Europe in a long time. I mean, I haven't been there in
2 years probably, right?
Going on almost 2 years, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's still a little bit uncertain.
It's been about a year and a half because I was playing with an Italian band for a little while, but still, it's too long. I hope to get there very soon.
Yeah, definitely. I hope to catch you soon. So definitely.
Okay.
Cool.
I'd like to check this interview out at some point too. I don't even remember what I said.
Yeah.
Dr. Jazz. Dr. Jazz.